Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the village board meeting, Wednesday, January 14th. If we'd all stand, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Present.
Trustee DeVivo?
Present.
Trustee Kajianis?
Present.
Trustee Sabo?
Present.
Trustee Suisse?
Present.
Trustee Yukich?
Present.
Mayor Daley?
Present. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of December 10th, 2014 Village Board meeting?
I so move.
First by Trustee Sabo,
Second.
second by Trustee Yukich. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Okay, let's start with, I believe I heard the discussion to the left here. Who was that? Margaret?
With me.
Go ahead, Margaret.
Yes, okay. You received a sheet of paper with the changes in red to the minutes. There is still something missing, and the sentence should read, well, it reads right now, Trustee Sabo stated that some examples of green energy and clean energy initiatives include the replacement of the tiles and carpeting and also using low or zero VOC paints. I would like that to read, Trustee Sabo stated that some examples of green energy and clean energy initiatives could be considered to replace tiles, for example, to replace tiles and carpeting and also using low or zero VOC paints if they are to be redone.
Okay, does anybody have any issue with changing it to the way Trustee Sabo just stated it?
Only thing I'd like to add to that, Mr. Mayor, is that if the transcripts on the video, audio tape or videotape warrant those changes as a basis of fact, so let it be written. But if it was not said at that meeting, I do believe it's remiss to come back and try to take a second bite of the apple on what you wish to have said 3 weeks ago.
Okay, well, the clerk and I talked about this, and I had given some examples. It didn't mean that those things were to happen. She and I both understood that. The way it reads presently is that they would happen, that we would be replacing tiles and carpeting. It is only to clarify. It is not to change the meaning or to change the intent or whatever was recorded in the tapes. If it is important to have this redone, reviewed, then I would consider amending the agenda, just to make sure. I mean, we certainly don't want something in there that wasn't intended, but I have made my intentions clear with this correction.
Again, I'd like to state that what was spoken, if it's part of the transcripts on the tape, let it be entered.
Well,
Okay.
then I amend the agenda, or I don't amend the agenda, then I would say that let's just not approve tonight until that's clear.
Here's, I believe, the way this would go then. You would table the motion to approve the minutes of December 10th, 2014 for further review.
Okay, I would like to amend my motion then to table the minutes of December 10th, 2014 for a further review.
And I second it.
Okay, there's a second by Trustee Yukich. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Well, I just had one little comment,
A
Mayor.
table goes to a vote. Go ahead, Gail, call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Kajianis?
No.
Trustee Sabo?
Yes.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number E is tabled for further discussion with the clerk. Okay, the next portion of this meeting then would be reports and communications from the mayor and other officers. I'll start out. At today's ribbon cutting ceremony, we officially welcome the Will County Circle K convenience store to the village of Homer Glen. The Will County Circle K is located at 143rd 10 South Wilcook Road. I wish the owner, Mr. Gorman, success with his business. Residents are encouraged to stop by the new convenience store and, as always, shop Homer Glen. Under Building Department revenue for 2014, continued good news. The village's December building permit revenue totaled $10,261.31. The building contract revenue for December totaled $15,440. There were a total of 36 permits issued by the village's building department in December. The total permit and contract revenue for the year of 2014 was $489,811. In 2014, there were a total of 1,047 permits issued by the building department, 125 more building permits than 2013. All good news as improvements continue in Homer Glen. Under early voting, early voting will be held here in the Village Hall boardroom the 2 weeks preceding the February 24th, 2015 consolidated primary election. Early voting dates and times here at the Village are as follows. Monday, February 9th through Friday, February 13th, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Tuesday, February 17th through Friday, February 20th, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Village Hall is closed on Monday, February 16th. Any registered voters residing in the Village of Homer Glen may early vote during these scheduled days and hours in the Village Boardroom. And that concludes the mayor's report. How about we start down with trustee reports with Trustee Costa?
No report this evening.
Okay, how about you, Trustee Yukich?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to report on the festival. Right now, the festival is pretty well set. All the bands are locked up. All the times are locked up. The hours for the festival, they're all set and standing. We're still working a little bit on the fireworks, and we're going to try to move the fireworks to a different placement, so we're not looking across the street. We're not screwing up 151st. And then we are still going to have another special needs day, but instead of Thursday, it'll be Friday this year. I'll get the hours to you the next meeting. That's my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Trustee Yukich. Trustee Sabo?
Yes, I'm going to be reporting for the Environment Committee. And the first item is the Big Tree Champion Contest. The Environment Committee has discussed the idea of having a Big Tree Champion Contest for the Homer Glen community in celebration of Arbor Day. The trees would be measured to seek the largest tree of its kind by determining the circumference at a certain height from the ground. Recognition would go to trees of any kind, every kind, such as oaks, elms, maples, and nut and fruit trees. Not just the largest tree or one tree is going to be recognized. The Environment Committee is gathering knowledge from other tree contests, and when the rules are established, a public announcement will be made. So we're going to be having some publicity in the future on this. Tree replacement program for the spring of 2015. The Environment Committee is reviewing and evaluating the fall 2014 tree replacement procedure and planting to determine the program for the spring of 2015. Earth Day Arbor Day this year. Sponsors are a critical part of the event and are needed to help promote and increase activities and attractions. Letters are being sent to potential businesses. Publicity for the event will be sent to the news media in the near future. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Sabo. Trustee K. Janis?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Trustee Suisse?
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting for the Homer Harvest Days Committee, the dates for this year's Homer Harvest Days are September 12 and 13. At this early stage, we have already received quite a few responses from demonstrators confirming their participation. These include Pilcher Park, the sheep shearer, candle making, Native American skills, Mr. Lincoln, the Kaiser Sound System, tomahawk throwing, and wool weaving. For the first time this year, we will have Civil War reenactors portraying members of the USA Navy and the nurses that served on board the Coron, Soleil, and similar ships. I want to publicly thank Trustee Sabo for these early confirmations. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Suisse. Trustee DeVivo?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't actually have a report this time, but I do want to mention that we're back to our regular schedule for the next Park and Recreation meeting on the 26th at 6:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee DeVivo. Okay, that concludes the trustee reports. Is there a treasurer's report?
No, Mayor, there's not.
Is there a clerk's report?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a village attorney report?
No report this evening, Mr. Mayor.
How about any public safety officials? And the village manager?
Mayor, just a couple quick items, Mayor and Board. The Village Hall is closed next Monday on the 19th. However, we will have a Plan Commission meeting in the evening at regular time here in this meeting room. So I want to let you know about that. Also, I put in all of the trustees' mailboxes a copy of Governor Rauner's transition plan that he released at the end of last week. And it's particularly interesting because there's a section of it that deals with municipalities, and I thought you might specifically enjoy reading that portion. So there's a full set in your mailbox. The public can get a hold of that report, which is about 90-some pages long. Talks about what his plans are for the future, which you might be interested in. You can go to the State of Illinois website and just download it off there. And finally, Mayor, just real quick, want to wish Michael a happy birthday. His birthday was yesterday, and we're so close to a board meeting, so I just want to wish him well for the year ahead. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Cam. The next portion of this meeting, that concludes reports and communications from the mayor and other officers. The next portion of this meeting is public comment. The first speaker would be Jim Cahill.
Thank you. I'm Jim Cahill, 16049 Penny Lane, Homer, Glen. I'm president of Stonebridge Villas Homeowners Association, and I'm speaking on their behalf tonight. I spoke to this group last month about a danger that exists in our subdivision and asked for your help. Obviously, I didn't do a very good job because nothing has happened. Again, I'd like to go over some of the information. Our roads were not completed. The top surface was not done by the contractor, so the official turnover of the roads to the village has not taken place. But the contractor is continuing to plow our roads, but not salt. His salt equipment is broken down, it cannot be repaired, so he is not able to do any of the salting. Therefore, our streets are extremely icy and are a real danger. Our children wait on the corners, these icy corners with no stop signs, no crosswalks, anything. The school bus drivers have expressed their concern to our parents, and it is a very dangerous situation. I defy any of you to cross these streets without worrying about your own safety. And then, my own opinion, I feel that the village is responsible for these streets. And I'll tell you why. The village has accepted approximately $8,000 through our property taxes earmarked for the roads. My opinion, you accept the money, you owe the service. Otherwise, return the money. Secondly, we have alerted you to this problem last month and again tonight. It is a very serious problem. Somebody is going to get hurt. Finally, there's a precedent has been set when you stepped in to help Amberfield and others when they had a similar problem. So I don't know why you cannot come in and help us. I ask for your help. It's our children's safety and lives. We need some action, not talk.
Thank you, Jim. And I will be talking with the highway commissioner. I brought this up at the last village board meeting when he stated that he felt Mr. Hahn could take care of it. And evidently, he's not. Sure, go right ahead.
I talked to Tom Hahn yesterday about that, and he said that he has tried to get a contractor because his equipment is out of order, like I said. Last weekend, he was out there with a fertilizer spreader spreading salt. Now, if that's what we're going to end up doing in this village, it's not going to work. So that's where it's at today. He cannot get a contractor. He cannot do it himself. We're stuck.
Well, I can get him a contractor, there's no doubt about that. So he's either gonna do it the right way, or we're gonna get a contractor in there, do it, and he's gonna pay the village. He was warned about this, the highway commissioner, I'm gonna have a word with tomorrow about it, said that he promised he had everything in place to be able to do it. If he's not doing it like you're saying, and I've asked about it during all this bad weather, there's plenty of contractors out there that would love to do it. There's a difference between wanting to do it and paying for it, okay? So I'll be talking with Commissioner DeVivo tomorrow. Thank you, Jim. Okay, the next speaker would be Dennis Gerwing.
Dennis Gerwing, 12250 West Derby Lane in Orland Park, Homer Glen. First, a comment. Various articles in Horizon, in Southtown, has pointed out that Chicago-style politics has finally entered Homer Glen. That's most unfortunate for us residents. It brings up perhaps a lot of questions, some inquiries, and who knows where that might lead. I would like to ask the board, the staff, somebody. I read the ad in the Homer Horizon for the receptionist that you want to hire that would also do some light paper or, light work of some type. That job right now costs this village, with the benefits and everything, around $54,000 a year. And as the ad stated, we're looking for someone with a high school education or perhaps a GED with 4 years of some type of experience at the rate of $19.62 an hour. And seems to me that we just passed a wage for a part-time employee of $24 an hour, and she is, quite frankly, well worth the money. She's got 13 years of experience with this village, dedicated, very friendly, outgoing, and I'm sure did her job to 120%, and you all know who I'm talking about. No problem with her getting 24 bucks an hour, okay? But why we're gonna pay a possible high school dropout who found out the hard way that you do need a diploma and perhaps went back and got one, why we're gonna start an individual like that out at $19.62 an hour, that's beyond comprehension. That is insane. I talked to a different community today, and they don't have a receptionist in this particular community, but the person I spoke to was had experience in hiring people of this type, and she was aghast at what I was telling her, and she quoted me some numbers of people that they have working in their community, similar type responsibility. One of the people has been there a number of years, and her salary, she's full-time, her salary with the benefits is $28,680 a year. They also have another person there, similar in nature, type of work and so forth. She makes $29,074 a year.
Hey, Dennis, for my benefit, where are we talking about?
I'm not at liberty to say that. She asked me to not say where this was. I'm not going to do it publicly. okay? It's a bordering community.
All right, continue.
So for a total of $57,754, they got 2 people with benefits, and I presume that with the budget ending April 30th, I'm sure there'll be salary adjustments made. But in any event, just on the hourly wage alone for 40 hours a week, this person that we're looking to hire is going to make $40,000 a year. On a percentage basis, that's 82% of what our new part-time girl is going to be making. I mean, it just doesn't hash. It just doesn't come out right. This village must have a hell of a lot of money. And if you do have that much money, get some streetlights on the corners in these subdivisions that don't have them, and the intersections within these areas. We need some lights on those corners. And this village must have a ton of money. Spend it wisely, because for a person to answer a telephone and do some light paperwork, 40 grand a year plus benefits, that's going to come over, that's going to equal what you're paying right now. And it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know where this salary, this hourly wage came up. I don't know who came up with that number. But you sure know how to spend money, that's what I'll say about that.
Okay, thank you, Dennis, and for the record, the position you're talking about has many responsibilities, and there have been over 400, at this point, 400 applications for that position. So we have quite a bit to choose from. Okay, thank you. Thank you, and that concludes public comment. The next portion of this meeting would be legislation and action items. Let's see. This would be H1. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 15-001, an ordinance approving and adopting the official 2015 zoning map of the Village of Homer Glen? It is understood that this adoption includes annexations, map amendments, and map corrections as discovered by staff over the course of 2014.
So moved.
First by trustee Sabo.
Second.
Second by trustee, who is this down here?
George.
DeVivo. Any questions?
Yes, I have a comment,
Go ahead.
Mayor. I agree with the changes or the annexations, the adjustments that were made, but this has been brought up previously, even at the 159th Street study plan, where there is not the proper designation for the conservation area, and it's not addressed again. So if this is supposed to be official, I would not be willing to go ahead and okay this without, because it's shown as commercial on the front part of that. And we've asked for that to be reflected to show an annexation area, and it's still staying the same.
Mayor, just real quick, and maybe the village attorney may be able to address too. This is a zoning map. So areas like that are not indicated on this map, okay? The village cannot just step in and change the zoning of a parcel unless we own it. The petitioner would have to petition us for a zoning change. Mark, I don't know if you want to address that. So we can't just make that adjustment on our own. That's not something that we can do. It would have to go through the normal zoning consideration process, which it never has.
But I think the issue, if I'm understanding that correctly, I think the issue at the time was that there was not supposed to be any commercial zoning, so they don't know how it got to be that way. Is that correct?
No, the zoning that's on that piece right now is the zoning that legally is attributed to that piece. So, and there's no way that staff can change that.
Oh,
unless
I
it
know,
gets-
you can't just
Yeah,
change that,
yeah,
right.
unless it goes through the process of our normal zoning process, so. The only thing on the map that the board did not already vote for and approve, and I think you know that over the past several years, Aaron occasionally stumbles on a parcel that is incorrectly zoned, usually because a property owner it comes in and wants some information and questions things. And Aaron always very thoroughly investigates these things with the county, looks back at records. And so if you notice on number 4 on your map that I know you have, there are 3 parcels there that are a light lavender. The 2 parcels, they're just to the right of the number 4. The 2 lavender parcels on the lower half of those 3 have always been reflected on your zoning map as I-1. The parcel that's on the top of it had previously been indicated as an agricultural parcel, and in reality, it also was I-1. And Aaron discovered that this past year. So that's been adjusted on this map. Everything else are items that you voted on in 2014. And so as has been the past practice, in January or February, we bring these changes before you so that we can update them and get a fresh, correct map up on the website and post it around here at Village Hall.
Okay, does that answer your question, trustee Suisse?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Okay, I have a comment to make, and
Go
that
ahead,
is,
trustee Sabo.
someone looking at the zoning map, and perhaps we're talking about 2 different things here. Someone looking at the zoning map will see that that property does have commercial in the front. It doesn't show that the rest of it, there's 40 acres, which includes that, a portion of that commercial designation, is conservation area. And anyone not familiar and not knowing that would not know it. And if we look at it, it may be forgotten also in the future. So I'd like to find a way so that that property certainly can be designated as a conservation area. It's not to be built on. So do we add something to the legend to designate that this is a conservation area, or do we make a motion in the future that on a map that it does show? How can this be done?
Right. Well, this is a zoning map, so the only thing that this map reflects is actual zoning of the property per se. So there are a number of conservation parcels on this map that are not indicated as a conservation parcel because we don't have a zoning designation for conservation. And the property owner, even if we did, the property owner would want to have to step in and ask to change their, zoning to that designation. Obviously, we have a couple parcels in town that the county owns, right, through the Forest Preserve, and those are not designated as like open space or conservation or anything like that because we don't have that designation. So I don't know if the village attorney would like to add anything to that or not.
I think you've said it all.
Okay, very good.
Well, then, another thing that we could consider is that since the other conservation areas or open spaces are not designated on here, that this parcel be designated on a map that shows all of those, that open space or conservation areas or so forth. And, that would also include parks, and et cetera, like that, so like things. So is there a map that exists today?
Well, that typically in communities would be your comp plan.
Yeah.
So on the comp plan, I don't have it in front of me right now, but in a comp plan, oftentimes, you will see designations for open space. And so that would be an appropriate place for such a designation, probably.
Well, we have asked that that be done with the House of Levine work. And so we're waiting to see what that has been. I mean, there are several of us that have indicated that it should be designated, so.
Yeah, of course, House of Levine isn't working on the comp plan.
I don't mean
Yeah,
the House of
but
Levine, I mean,
yeah.
Corridor study plan.
The corridor study plan?
not the comp plan. They're
The
talking about
corridor study-
159th
Yeah, the
Street.
corridor study plan,
Right, the corridor plan.
right.
okay. Trustee Costa, I believe you had a question?
Just real quick, so any area that's in the village that may be deeded, licensed, or designated conservation area, there are public records to that, and no one can come in and dispute it based on this map? Am I correct in saying that? So if someone
I
looks
don't
at this
really-
piece of property we're talking about, and it does not designate that it's a conservation protected area, can someone come in and say, well, your map didn't show it, so argue the point that it isn't one?
Well, you don't have, on most zoning maps, including this one, you don't have a zoning category that involves conservation. So you don't have a category. So at least someone can't come in and say, you know, this parcel was and that parcel wasn't, and yada, 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 because you don't have a designation for open space or
Why can't we?
you know. So some communities do. I haven't experienced that in my career, but there are some communities that do that. But having said that, again, you can't just say, okay, the village board just can't decree and say, okay, that parcel's now this. The property owner has to be obviously involved in participating in that process.
If I'm hearing you correctly, Kim, the property owner has to agree to that.
Right, the property owner
Okay.
has to be a part of the
Okay,
process.
so you can't designate him as conservation area and say he can't do anything with his property. He hasn't agreed to that. If somebody was to come in, if I'm hearing this correctly, and say, I would like my property to be zoned conservation area, because that's the way I'd like to see my property in perpetuity, I think that would be a very easy thing to do. But we can't tell a property owner what he can do with his property beyond, he's in a commercial district, he's in an industrial district, he's in, that,
Yeah, I agree with that. All I want to do is make sure that if we know, for example, the parcel that we're talking about, there's a certain amount of acres that is already designated, deeded, whatever, recorded as conservation, that if it's already existing, then our map does not have to show that for any legal
Right.
purposes.
It's recorded against the deed.
It's
so
already
part of
recorded against the
parcel.
deed. So there's already a safeguard there that someone can't come in and say, well, you didn't show it on your map, so we consider it not being there.
Right, and there may be any number of parcels in the community that people have put into some kind of trust, to protect that we don't even know about. There could be any number. So,
one that comes to mind before I get to trustee DeVivo is, on the Frank Dunn farm, they have the 40 acres there that I believe was a conservation deeded area on the property, designated. So that's, in my mind, unless the family was to come back in and change the deed somehow legally, that is, we've talked about that before when we looked at that property. Trustee DeVivo?
I think that this could certainly be covered in the comp plan. We know it needs to be amended. The comprehensive plan needs an amendment. It hasn't been looked at for many years. But maybe we do put in something where we do have a designation for conservation areas. Maybe that's something this community should do. But to protect that property that you're talking about, and I know it's the Dunn Farm that we're all talking about, I think it wouldn't hurt to put an amendment in the comp plan and state that.
Okay, well, the comp plan definitely needs to take a revisit. 355 didn't exist when the comp plan was designed. 159th Street project, which is going to be, as we all know, quite an expensive project from 355 to LaGrange Road, was only a thought at that point in time. The Bell Road improvements, the county is moving forward to getting on with that project. So yes, the comprehensive plan definitely needs to be looked at and amended to reflect, the changes in the neighborhood.
In regard to the Dunn property, because that's what has been talked about all this time, the family did designate that as a conservation area in their deed. I don't think the family has to come forth and say they want to do it. They've already said it. So that is a fact. And
Okay,
the village has information on that.
okay, and I think the village manager has made it very clear that that would be something that would be reflected in the comprehensive plan. So with that being said, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Kate Janis?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Motion carries. This would be H2. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 15-002, a text amendment to ordinance number 08-003, 2022-048 entitled "The Village of Homer Glen Zoning Ordinance Amending the Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals Meetings and Rules."
So moved.
First by trustee Kay Janis,
I second.
second by trustee Suisse. Is there any discussion?
I
Madam-
just,
Somebody
a
said something? Go ahead,
question.
trustee
On
Suisse.
attachment B, which is at the very end, is that going to be what we are going to use for their, more or less their affidavit stating that what they're supplying on a site plan is correct?
Correct.
Because isn't that the beginning of that, to the best of my knowledge, isn't that kind of?
I would defer to the attorney on the
Oh,
legal language. I
okay.
think, Mark, if I'm not mistaken, I think Mark was involved in it with Aaron drafting it, so
Oh,
I
okay.
defer it to
right.
Mark.
Right. Yeah, that's acceptable.
Yeah, very good.
Well,
Oh,
one thing,
Okay, Mr. Mayor, only comment I have in going forward with this is, I don't want property owners to have a false sense here on what they need to do regarding setting up their,
you might want to
The
pull that
plots.
microphone in front.
I'm sorry, the plots of survey and ensuring that they have, all the ducks in order for their property going forward, so. I'm in agreement with this, but I want to make sure that the property owners do have, all the things necessary as they go forward in their future.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Can I have one more comment?
Go ahead, trustee Suisse.
On this attachment B, which is their statement, should we include something, what happens, or should there be, what happens if that is not correct information? Does that need to be addressed? Because will they know that they may have to move that sign if this is not accurate? Is that something that should be addressed right up front when they are, another paragraph in there?
Another paragraph in the exhibit?
In attachment B, because if we're going to use attachment B if that's their verification saying, this is what I believe is totally true, should we address something in the site plan saying, well, if that is not accurate, then this happens?
Sure, if it's the board's desire, we can add...
Well, I don't know,
Oh, I'm just saying, if it's the board's desire, the staff can add an extra paragraph in the attachment to that effect.
well, just to make it clear to the property owner.
Well, we've said from day one that if we were going to accept site plans versus surveys, that the property owner was responsible in the event that the sign had to move as a result of not being on his property. Do you think that this, village attorney, do you think that this is strong enough language?
I think
I
it's
guess that's what you
I think
said.
it's implied, but in the statement, but if the board wants to add that, a couple of sentences to that effect, that's not a problem.
I like also state one of the entries into this amendment would be the property will need to attest to the accuracy and the validity of the site plan. So that,
Okay,
I think
it
speaks very well.
it sounds like there's trustees that want this with more teeth in it to make sure that it's very, very well understood. So I'd ask to table this motion
Mayor,
so
you-
that the
no,
attorney.
You don't need to table it. It's this, the attachment B, excuse me, I'm sorry. The attachment B is, can be easily adjusted, does not require a village vote. The
Okay, but
attachment
we
B-
need to come to
So,
conclusion as to
the
what we're
village
saying
staff-
here.
The village staff can work with the village attorney and make it a little bit clearer, a
Okay.
couple extra sentences, and
It'll
that
take
won't
5
be,
minutes to fix it tomorrow morning.
yeah, that won't be a
Okay.
problem at all. That won't
As
be a problem.
as long as it's like that, that's fine with me.
And
Is
the
that
only
fine
reason-
with you,
yeah.
trustee Suisse?
Yes,
Okay,
but trustee, you could.
I have one comment too.
go ahead, trustee Yukich.
I had called down to the state. The state has actually put in monuments on the property to prove where the state line begins going into the street and where the property line goes in for the owner. So that's what they're going off of. So there should be no problem whatsoever. The state's already put the monuments in the property.
Right.
The only problem with that is that we're not gonna play this chasing game If the state is wrong, and he's working off the state's monument corner posts, that's his issue with the state. He has an issue with us that he has to move the sign, and he's agreeing to it. So the state does make mistakes. I'm a developer. I've had it happen in properties that I've been involved with them. So this person does not have a survey. He has a site plan. He has to take the responsibility. The attorney's going to add a little more teeth into it. It'll take him 5 minutes, as he stated. Is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk,
Yes.
please go ahead, Trustee Sabo.
Yes, this is on another related topic to this. If you look on page 4 of 4, in the attachment, it says sign variance fee. And we've talked about this before. There are fees for this, but they are fees that that the applicant agrees to apply for himself. In this case, this is a forced thing. They have no choice. So I really don't feel that they should be paying for variance fees. So I think that can be taken up in the future. I feel that if we're business friendly, this is really an imposition on those property owners that are impacted so greatly right now, that there should not be a variance fee.
Right, and just for clarification, I know I've written about this in my weekly report and a couple times, but the Economic Development Committee has that on their agenda for this month. So of course, all of the sign variance reductions that you've already done over the past 2 years, which is numerous, 3, 4, 5 of them, have come out of that committee. And so when the board indicated a desire at the beginning of last month to look at reducing them even further, then we sent them over to that committee. They'll be meeting on that this month and then coming back to the village board with a recommendation.
And slight correction to
And
that.
then you could decide if the board wanted to, which you probably will, I assume, if you'd like to go back and retroactively maybe make some refunds to a couple of the people that have, that this has impacted, like George on this.
And I'm
this
glad the
particular one.
committee's working on it.
Trustee Kajanis?
Yeah, just slight correction to that. The agenda hasn't been fully set for this month, and we're looking at the possibility of February for that topic.
Okay, I know George is just trying to move forward and use a site plan versus survey, so I'd hate to hold him up on that. We can address fees at a later date. So is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Kajanis?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Motion carries. Okay, this would be H3. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 15-0003, an ordinance amending Exhibit A of ordinance number 12-033 entitled, an ordinance establishing a Village of Homer Glen Business Incentive Non-Conforming Sign Replacement Loan Program?
So moved.
First by trustee
Costa.
Costa,
Second.
Second.
second by trustee, it was a tie, who wants a second?
I got the second.
Second by trustee Kajanis. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Kajanis?
Aye.
Motion carries. This would be H4. Is there a motion to approve an extension of the existing special use permit that allows for a final planned unit development for the Glen Oaks Center development from January 28, 2015 to January 28, 2016?
I so moved.
First by trustee
Second.
Sabo, second by trustee Kajanis. Is there any discussion?
I have a question.
Go right ahead.
I know this has been a difficult property to plan. It's narrow and it's long and it's adjacent to an already developed subdivision. And so it's been going on since 2005. That's a long time. That's almost 10 years. That's almost the life of this village. And so there's been a lot of changes. I have no disagreement, I have no disagreement with extending this. However, my question pertains to ordinances that have been made since 2005. And there have been ordinances that are to the advantage of this applicant. So are current ordinances applicable to this property? That's my question. Are they only suitable for ordinances that were in 2005?
There's a little summary of that on page 2 of the backup.
On page 2?
That explains which
I
zoning
read that,
ordinances and
and then I
whatnot
couldn't
that
find it
are
again.
applicable to the project. And I know it's come up every year that he's come before us.
Oh, okay, where
so
is it on page 2?
At the very top, where it says the petition falls under the 2001 version of the village zoning ordinance, and then there's a little summary. going
Okay.
down. Yeah.
Okay, does
Dr.
that,
Glen is here. I would say, to his credit, in this crazy economic environment we've been in these past couple of years, he's made considerable progress this past year, and right now is to the point where I think all we're waiting for is contract registration, which is a significant improvement going forward from where he was last year. So he's on the cusp, and he intends to turn dirt this spring. I don't want to speak for you, Dr. Mayor, if there's any questions the board has for the doctor, he's here.
Doctor, I give you credit for being able to hold on to the property since 2005. You're one of the few. So we have somebody with strong hands that wants to do business in town. I'm all in favor of it.
No, we were pushing to get going even before the holidays, but, as government agencies are hard to deal with sometimes. IDOT, we've been back and forth, even to get approval for a construction entrance, it seemed to be like pulling teeth. So that's done, the IPA is done. Illinois American Water, originally all our plans were to go under 159th Street to tap into the main on the north side of the street. We only learned at the end, about November 15th, that they're putting a main on the south side of the street. And how that could not have been in someone's plans and was not told to me, as we've been dealing with them for years, that the third floor was what the second floor was doing, and it never came down the pipe. So we learned about it almost by mistake, that my engineer was working on a review for Illinois American Water and saw a main being put right down. So right now, our engineers are redoing or undoing the extension going under 159th Street so we can tap on to that. And the final IDOT approval for our entrance and our construction entrance, the temporary entrance. So everything is ready to go in terms of all the requirements. And so hopefully, now that we're through winter, in the spring, we'll be ready to dig.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
I have a comment.
Go right ahead, Trustee
Still have a
Sabo.
comment on the top of page 2 there, where it says petitioner made original application submittal in 2005. This means that the petition falls under the 2001 version of the village zoning ordinance. The petition is also exempt from several other existing ordinances. I don't know, in some cases, this is a disadvantage to the applicant. For example, the sign ordinance has gone through quite a number of changes for the advantage of the business community. And so that I would hope that's why I think he's being held back. We're talking about what was the sign ordinance in 2001, which was the date of our, actually the date of incorporation. And then there would be some other ordinances too that would work against him.
Yeah, for this project right now, as it says, doesn't have any signage on it. So signage will come as a separate application, and it'll be new. That will happen at a later date, probably sometime, I assume, in 2015, probably.
Okay, well, there is the lighting ordinance. In 2001, that was the Will County ordinance. And so what is the lighting on this project?
Yeah, if I had had that question before the meeting, I would have been able to check on it, but I'm not certain. But I think that they're in compliance.
It's up to the latest
Right. I
ordinance
think they're in
that you guys
compliance.
have revised for the village, because that was just approved, the final PUD that was approved last year.
Right.
We met your request to update it to where we won't be able to see anything.
That's right, because they had to change
Dark sky.
You had to.
I'm just joking.
You had to change.
Thank you, Doctor.
Is there
Thank you,
anything-
Doctor.
Is there anything else that would be to a disadvantage? to his-
Well,
to the
I think
village?
we've worked through everything. The doctor's happy, and I know that,
That was, like, those ordinances, as the whole process went through, when those came up, we did meet those requests to put those on the plan.
Well, I'm
He's,
just concerned that he's not in the
Trustee Sa-
squeeze on anything.
Trustee
I don't
Sable,
think
he's the
that's the
developer. If he has issues, he'll come to
And
us
with the
about the
sign,
issues.
when I met with the building department, several times we went through what the current sign ordinances were and how they were updated for, square footage of the
Right.
signs.
Height and stuff.
That kind of stuff.
Well, I think, Mr. Mayor, that he should know that we are concerned for his welfare, so that's why I'm bringing all this up.
Okay.
Well,
Is there any other statements?
At this time, Dr. Glenn, do you feel, going forward as of today, that there's anything that's holding you back from going forward on the village side? On the village side, not the state? Okay. And
Okay.
you're the builder,
All
you're
right.
the investor.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mayor, I just have a question, not really relating directly to this, but can we look at possibly putting a future workshop on in the future regarding how we address original applications? I don't think, even though the petitioner puts in an application, I think it's at the time, like, say this case, it's been a decade.
We can. I would su- I
Look
would-
at when the actual building starts and what they should follow.
We can. I would suggest this. Interestingly enough, we don't have that many anymore.
Oh, okay, good.
Mr. Gatz's was one, and that, of course, is gone away, and you have another one on 159th Street, across the street from this development. And we haven't heard back from that petitioner on when he wants to extend. So maybe we'll wait and see if that one comes forward with a request for another extension, and then do at that point.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Trustee Suisse?
Yes, thank you.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Suisse?
Yes.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Kajana?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Right.
Motion carries. Okay, this would be H5. I want to provide some background information on this item. The village received an unexpected letter from the State Bank of Countryside informing the village that it was the bank's intent not to renew the $869,235.14 letter of credit for Evelyn Gate subdivision. The letter from the bank stated their intent is to reduce the LOC to $216,700. A letter of credit is money from a developer that remains in the bank as security to ensure that all subdivision public improvements are completed. Since the posting of the village's agenda, the bank sent a letter to the village rescinding their previous notification. Therefore, the village attorney has advised us there is no need to discuss the LOC draw this evening. The village manager will continue to update the board on this matter. So, thank you. The next items on the agenda would be workshop items. Workshop item number 1, the Parade and Festival Committee is recommending the use of a portion of the village-owned former Woodbine Golf Course property for the 2015 Homer Community Fest fireworks display. Staff member and committee liaison Sue Stylen has summarized the recommendation in the board's agenda's material. I am certainly in support of the utilization of our property. Does anybody on the board have an objection to this proposed use?
None at all.
Any? Okay, that concludes that workshop. Workshop 2. This is discussion. This is a discussion item that has been discussed by the village board in November and December of 2014. Village staff is waiting for direction from the board regarding whether or not you want staff to enforce this long-time unenforced ordinance. As discussed previously by the village attorney, if the majority of the board feels that temporary sign restrictions are to be enforced, then the board will be directing village staff to enforce the ordinance uniformly with all political, nonprofit, sale, realty, etc., temporary signs placed within the right-of-way removed. And I open that up for discussion. First of all, I'll give you my opinion. I think for the inconvenience that an election takes, 30 days, I think to go in and remove real estate signs and identification of properties that are for sale, the fact that all of our nonprofit signs for our events would not be allowed in the right-of-way, as the workshop description says, sale, realty, etc., temporary signs. Quite a few of our businesses do have temporary signs in the right-of-way that they remove very quickly after their intended use. I know for a fact the real estate companies come out on Friday night, put signs up that that house over there is for sale, or that house is for sale. All these signs would be picked up. There would be no signs in the right-of-way. If we vote to remove the political signs, all signs have to be removed. So with that being said, I open it up for discussion.
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Costa?
You know, we've discussed this in the past also, not just in the past few months, but in the past few years. We do have an ordinance, and you know, the more you think about the ordinance, and of course, our legal counsel has given us the opinion if we can enforce for one type of sign, we have to enforce for all of them. We do see signs around the community, as the mayor stated, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. And we also see signs up as our summer months come up for church events and different sign-ups and whatever case may be. Although the political signs, and I'm going to say political signs, can get excessive at times, you know, I said it, I think 2 meetings ago, if you're running for office in the community and you know that there's an ordinance about it, then try to abide by the ordinance that you're going to ask to uphold after you win your election. But with that being said, you're also out there campaigning and trying to win an election. You have volunteers that are helping put signs up. And we don't only have local elections, we have county, state, and federal elections where you might have people from other communities coming putting signs up. I think the biggest issue I have with it, as an elected official and a candidate in the past too, is you come up to a corner and a candidate or somebody puts 3 or 4 signs at the corner, all on the 4 directions. So you can have 12 to 16 signs up there. And it's very unsightly. If you have 4, 5, 6, 8 people running for different positions, and everybody puts 2, 3 signs up, you're talking 20, 30 plus signs in a corner. That is unsightly. Also recognize though that how can we manage this? I mean, signs are put up on evenings and weekends. And we all know as people running for office, you go by a corner and your sign is gone, what's the first thing you do? Put another sign there. People
And blame the other guy.
And you blame the other guy, of course. That's the first thing you do is blame the other guy, and then you put another sign there. I just feel that, you know, if candidates can do it with some taste, make it so that it's not an eyesore, so there's some semblance of order. I mean, does it really matter if your sign is the first one or the last one, or if it's the biggest one? You know, if everybody will just do it somehow, you know, just use your common sense when you put signs up, 30 days later, they're gone. I just can't see how we can manage that as a village. We'd have to be out there 7 days a week taking these signs down, and not between 8 and 4 o'clock, because if they go up after 4, I mean, every day you can be doing it. Not only that, when the election cycle's over, you have to have somebody going 25 square miles every single week and getting every sign that's put up in the community. I just think it'd be very hard to manage that and to fund it. That's 2 issues.
I agree with
I
you.
say the way the ordinance is written, I say let's just let it be right now. If it gets excessive, of course, if we get a call that a sign is blocking view or it's some kind of hazard, we would have to act on it.
We do.
And I think we have done that in the past.
We have.
And just ask anybody running for office, use your common sense. It's your community too. If you're gonna put a sign out there, don't put it right at the edge of the road. Keep it out back as far as you can. And there's no reason to put 3, 4, 5 of them in a row. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Trustee Costa. Anybody else want to weigh in on this?
Well, I'd just like to say something. If we have an ordinance and it's not working, then we ought to evaluate this ordinance and amend it, change it some way to make it work. The one thing that is annoying about signs in the right-of-way has been expressed by our highway commissioner, who is here this evening. And it's a big job for them to deal with that, because they work in the road right-of-way. So they're, you know, if you have an ordinance that's not working, look at it, investigate, see how it can be changed, but don't ignore it. I mean, I don't think we can do anything about it now with this election. And yes, there are people outside of this community that are running for state office and county offices that would put signs anywhere on public property. So that's something we have to deal with. But we just can't let this ride and ride and ride year after year after year. So we have an ordinance. It's our law. The law isn't working. Let's really evaluate it and see how we can make it work.
What committee, Cam, would that go to for discussion?
Well, typically what needs to happen ultimately, if you want to make changes, even if it's a small change, like the village attorney has talked to you about the restriction in terms of that's currently on the ordinance in terms of private property, how that's not fully constitutional, and we need to do some cleanup that way. So typically what would happen is there'd be a motion probably coming out of administration and finance that would come to the board, and then we'd petition the plan commission for those changes, you know, because it's a sign change, and so it has to go through you have to ask me to petition the plan commission on the village's behalf. You've done it several times before on issues like this, so that's kind of how that would have to roll. And certainly on those items that we talked about, the village attorney and I can come up with something and get it before committee and then back to the village board for you to look at.
Yeah, I would recommend that this go to a committee for discussion and come back with some thought processes to, there are some towns that enforce sign regulations in right-of-ways, and there are ways to do it, and there are towns that say this is political speech, this is freedom of speech during this 30-day window, and they allow it to happen. So I would suggest that it go to committee and take a look at what towns do that both prohibit it and allow it, but try to make it allowable in some type of more of a classy way, where we're not encumbered with a zillion signs, both commercial and political. So, anybody have a problem with sending this to committee?
No, but I do have one question.
Go ahead, Trustee Yukich.
Commissioner DeVivo, you still feel it's a safety issue, putting all the signs up on the roadway?
Oh, yeah, but that's only part of it. You know, it's as of Monday.
Hold on here, Mike. Go step up to the mic.
As of Monday, and legal counsel may be able to substantiate this, an issue was brought forth before the United States Supreme Court regarding something that would affect your decisions here. I believe there was a small town in Arizona who said you could put this kind of sign up here for this long, but not that kind of a sign. So it was challenged through the courts, and it went to the Supreme Court. Now, you know the Supreme Court often takes many months to render an opinion. But, you know, just what you're saying here is, well, you can put a candidate sign up there, and the candidates, it's free speech, but the church is free speech, but the McDonald's who wants to advertise their hamburgers in front of your park, we're not going to allow that. That's the issue this Supreme Court is addressing, and it's there Monday. So I think the issue is not only the fact of all the problems and issues you have with the signs in the right-of-way, it's the ability to regulate it. if you were to say it's okay going the right of way, and then somebody would go to your corner on 151st and Parker, where you have your little garden there, and put signs all over there, what's the difference between that and the right of way? You'd have to put something in writing to regulate that. And that'd be pretty difficult to do. So I'm from a safety standpoint, yes, you know, and just from a practical standpoint. You know, everybody thinks signs are gonna go push the sign in the ground. What do you do when a guy takes a 4x8 sheet of plywood and puts it in there with two 2x4s and paints it all up? And if it's not a safety issue, if it's not obstructing any view, how do you tell him no? And the guy who, well, then you have to regulate it. Now you're saying, I can't put this sign in the right way, but you can't put that one. So this is an extremely complex issue, and the easiest way to address it, just say no.
Yeah, we've discussed the issue of, you know, what's good for one is going to be good for everything. The issue, I think Trustee Yukich is asking is it a safety issue? But I would think, just as a logical person, that it's a safety issue, whether it be Joe Blow wants to run for trustee, or Chesden's Pizza is 15 signs out there for, what do you call it? We're making heart-shaped pizzas this weekend, or, you know, any other business. So, I mean, if it's a safety issue on one end, then it's a safety issue on the other end. So you're right back to the same issue of you either 100% enforce it across the board, or you don't enforce it. And in this case, the window of opportunity for, which we've allowed since we incorporated, has been the 30 days during the election season. And I believe you have 5 days to take them down before we dispose of them permanently. So that's the question.
I still have more, just a few. I really don't have such a big problem with putting signs up if they did it the way the trustee Costa said, where it's a little bit classy, not one on top of the other. My big issue is business. Still goes back to the fact, it's okay for us to put them up there for 30 days, but the businesses can't put them up there for 30 days. I don't feel I'm any better than any business inside this community, because without the business, we don't have a community, because that's what pays all the bills here. So if you're saying that for, you know, it's just 30 days, and actually there, then you'd have to look in, because the last time I heard, the United States government said that they could be up year-round. So if that's the case, and we have the right to do it, then I think every business in Homer Glen should have the right to be able to do it too. Put signs up. That's how you make money. That's how people find out what you're doing.
The businesses in town right now, George, do have a allotment for a temporary sign, under the temporary sign ordinance. I think it's how many days?
91 days.
91 days.
91
The board
days.
voted on that last year. Or the board.
Just to clarify that. So, does anybody else have any questions? Because what I would recommend is send this to committee. We're on top of an election right now, so it's pretty hard to make a decision right in the middle of an election. But I think we can collect data from both pro and con sign issues from other communities, discuss them, come back and say, this is what we have from the pro, this is what we have from the con, and be better educated about any type of legal rights we may have or decision-making, you know, looking towards the future. Is everybody satisfied with that?
Right. I do have just a comment, what I believe. I believe as elected officials up here, we should lead by example, and we should follow our laws as it states, as they are now. That's all I have to say.
But also, I'd like to state this, it's a relevant part of our country and our right as American citizens and citizens of this country, the U.S. of A. That one of the values we do cherish is freedom of speech. I know there's a report back in June that Harry Reid, who I'm not a fan of, tried to propose something, restrictions on political signs and political speech through his committee. Also, that was back in June. Also, I'd be remiss not to mention the tragedy that's befallen some of our world citizens from freedom of speech and the prevention of freedom of speech that took place overseas. So I don't want us to fall down that avenue of start restrict freedom of speech, whether it's political or otherwise, and restrict it. That being said, I do believe in a safety issue, sight lines, things of that sort. That's just common sense. That is common sense. This last summer, I picked up a sign in the middle of 143rd and Bell Road at night. A windstorm came forward. I'm not going to say who it was, but it was a government sign.
Oh.
So we have to be conscious of
Okay,
safety.
well, everybody understands that if the highway commissioner views something as unsafe, he's gonna take it down. So if it's sticking too far out to where lines of sight that are bad, and also the police department, they're out there all night, all day, they see things, they can tell the highway commissioner, hey, I got a little issue, I pulled up to this corner and I can't see left or I can't see right because of the signs. If it's a safety issue, the highway commissioner is well within his rights to go out there and remove it. And if he wants to contact the individual party that put it out there, that's fine. Otherwise, they know where to find it. It'll be by his dumpster in the back of his yard. So anyway, I would like to bring this back to committee. If anybody has any issues, does anybody have any issues about that? Okay, then that concludes our workshop, our second workshop. The next point of business is old business. Is there any old business? Okay, is there any new business? All right, then I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
I
First
second.
by trustee Sabo,
I second.
second by trustee Sweez. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries, meeting adjourned.